Spend a day at the Queensland Pioneer Steam Railway. From early in the morning, we watch as the Society crew prepare their locomotives for a day running tourist trains on the Swambank Power Station branch line. We get an insight into the controls of Killaree, their small 042 steam locomotive, as she's being prepared. Unique rolling stock is seen in action along with beautifully restored passenger cars, some of which are over 100 years old. Take a close look at the 800 horsepower diesel, then ride in the cab alongside Basil Klein as he explains the layout of the locomotive controls. The first generation English electric locomotive puts on a spectacular show. Standing trackside as a 4-cycle diesel runs by is something everyone should experience. We also take a look at the coal trains as they traverse the branch to the Swambank Power Station. The information and technical notes in this presentation make the Queensland Pioneer Steam Railway a tape not to be missed. Part 1, out now. Ride the Valley Rattler. Few people can resist the excitement to ride behind a steam locomotive with its engine chuffing and whistle blowing. Every week, hundreds of people travel to Gympie to ride on one of Queensland's most famous preserved trains and experience the thrill and romance of railroading. You too can enjoy the magic of a train ride aboard a steam-powered train or a vintage diesel locomotive. The Mary Valley Heritage Railway Museum is based at the historic Gympie Station. Travelling from Gympie to Imbil and return, we view this historic line from trackside and on board, including a ride on the footplate of the restored C17 steam locomotive. Filmed over different running days, you'll see steam and diesel action at its best. You'll get a look at the railroad's old-time locomotives, restored coaches and historic towns, just as if you were there in person. The history and technical notes included make this tape one you'll enjoy for years to come. Climb aboard and enjoy the sights and sounds of the Mary Valley Heritage Railway. Train Pictures presents Railmotor 2000. We travel to Gympie in Queensland's southeast to film one of the few remaining 2000 class rail motors in regular use. You'll follow the crew as they prepare for a private charter run over the Mary Valley branch line from historic Gympie Station to Kandanga and return. Our journey takes us into the Mary Valley, negotiating some of its main waterways en route to Dagon and our destination of Kandanga. See the rail motor in action as we travel over one of the state's most scenic railway lines. Riding beside driver Des Ong Hin, we get a good look at just what is involved in operating the 2000 class. We take you trackside and on board with close-up shots of the drivetrain, driver interviews and technical notes, making this video a must-have for your collection. Railmotor 2000. Order your copy today. Train Pictures presents New Zealand Locomotives, a railwayman's view. Train Pictures caught up with retired engineman Ron Harris, who takes us on a ride back in time. Back to the 1960s, in fact, as we view the transition from steam to diesel power on the then New Zealand government railways. We travel through the period with rare video footage, audio recordings and photographs Ron produced when working as an engine driver for the railways.
We're now at Huntly, 1960. AB's just arrived with train number 278. Going north is the rail car number 164 heading for Auckland. We used to put a BB and a van on the top of 278. We were on the Sunday shunt here. We did the four corners of the yard. So there's the big signal gantry of Frankton, the social hall on your right, the engine depot up the front, which is where the new station is now. Approaching the Commerce Street crossing, which was a real curse because there were engines and trains going all the time. Now we're going down the yard on our BB, as you'll see the shadow, and there was a little C alongside. The JA, a superb engine, a very superb engine. There's nothing they couldn't do, goods, expresses, shunts, anything.
Over that time, Ron took many photos and films of areas where the rails no longer run. He guides us over some of these now closed branch lines, hauling fast freight and excursion specials. Train Pictures also takes a look at the Plains Railway Museum and some working miniatures that Ron built during his time with the NZR. New Zealand Locomotives, a railwayman's view. Welcome to the wonderful world of model trains. On the first volume of our model train series, Train Pictures visits the Train Place, home of Australia's largest O-scale model railroad display. We begin our rail fan experience of the Train Place by following a Union Pacific ore train over the layout from the mine to Museum Junction. Wheels and motion. Just look at those powerful side rods on this magnificent KTM model. .614 is a Northern class locomotive of the chassis system. We climb up onto the coal tender for a bird's eye view on approach to Prestonville Yard. Welcome to the Wild Wild West. The Rio Grande narrow gauge mogul trundles over a high trestle bridge with a short freight. The mogul locomotive and rolling stock are a Bachmann Industries plastic model and extremely well detailed. Weaving in and out of the main support structure of the O-scale display are two G-gauge layouts. The first is loosely based on the American Wild West era. These large G-scale models are a treat to watch. Hustle and bustle is alive and well on the HO scale urban display. Originally built as a portable showpiece, this display has now been permanently installed and automated. Even though it's only a 16-foot by 8-foot layout, the many detailed scenes give the viewer a sense of expanse in a sprawling urban environment. Let's take a look at some of the other trains and branch lines featured on the O-scale display.
You know, when I was a boy, lots of young boys wanted to become an engine driver when they grew up. In reality, not many of them achieved that ambition. I became a school teacher and an engine driver. G'day, my name's Teddy. Here on the Rosewood Railway, I operate a program called Engine Driver for a Day, where people just like you can come along and drive a real steam engine. We've had people from all parts of the world come here to sunny Queensland just to drive our engine. I've got a couple of fellows on today. Would you like to come along and see what we do? Come on, come and join me. We're about to go on our Engine Driver for a Day experience. Come on. Crikey, look at that. What a ride.
Just trains across Australia. In January of 2004, Greg Travers and Peter Attenborough made the long trek across Australia from Sydney on the east coast to Perth on the west. We begin our trip at Junee in southern New South Wales, before heading south to Geelong in Victoria, then across the continent west to Perth and return. Also visiting the southwest corner of Western Australia. Technical specification subtitles will introduce each of the locomotives featured, along with maps showing where each of the scenes have been taken. You can jump ahead to the next action scene at any time by using the next key on your DVD remote control. Just trains across Australia. We hope you'll enjoy our choice of subject in this presentation. Victoria in southeastern Australia has plenty to hold the interest of the rail enthusiast. Throughout this production, we'll introduce you to or reacquaint you with selected Victorian trains. The map highlights the areas we'll visit, from Oaklands in the north to the Flinders Ranges in the west, south to Long Island and to Broadford in the east. Still photographs and technical specification screens will introduce each of the diesel locomotives featured, along with maps showing the areas where each train is running. Take a journey to the Pilbara in the northwest of Australia, a vast landscape stretching to a seemingly endless horizon. Untouched through its isolation, this rugged country is deserted and extremely difficult to access. The only reminders of civilization are the well-travelled rails of the Pilbara region's heavy haul railways. The roar from 6,000 horsepower locomotives as they climb 1 in 50 grades, hauling a 30,000 tonne, 200 plus car train is simply amazing. These locomotives can only be described as massive, standing over 16 feet high and weighing over 190 tonne. They are the most powerful locomotives in Australia today. In September 2001, Greg Travers spent 14 days following these immense trains through the Pilbara region. You'll see 2, 3 and 4 locomotives up front, plus trains with up to 3 mid-train helpers. Road River, BHP Iron Ore and Hamersley Iron Railways are featured with trackside and pacing footage. Settle back and watch some of the world's most efficient heavy haul railways at work. Just Pilbara trains, available from all good railfan outlets today. Welcome to the wonderful world of model trains. On the first volume of our model train series, Train Pictures visits the Train Place, home of Australia's largest O-scale model railroad display. The well-stocked hobby shop is a model railroader's delight. You can spend hours poring over endless kits, scenic details and unique rolling stock, imagining them at home on your layout. The walls of the main display hall are lined with antique railway models, some of which are classics. Historical railway memorabilia is also on display, along with many photographs and posters of a bygone era. Let's take a quick look at the many scenes and trains as we learn more about just what went into the construction of Australia's largest model display. This unique O-scale model railway was originally constructed by Rod Burgess and his many friends. The construction took over 10,000 man-hours and was created in just 13 months. Rod Burgess ran the Train Place for a little over 7 years, until purchased by Lee and Bob Harris in November 1992. The layout was designed by former railway draftsman Bruce Beasley, measuring some 22.8 metres by 13.5 metres and ranging in height from 69 centimetres to 180 centimetres. It consumes over 318 square metres of the Train Place. Over 2,844 feet of Pico flexible track and 84 motorised points and switches went into the main road construction. 1,700 square feet of particle board was used to construct the base to support the main right-of-way. The Hills and Scenic base required 700 kilos of casting plaster spread over 210 Hessian bags, laid over 150 metres of chicken wire to form the mountains and gullies for the entire layout. Once the Scenic base was in place, 50 litres of paint combined with 40 litres of terps and 4 giant bags of sawdust created the colour and texture of the surrounding landscape. The builders lost count of the endless amounts of timber and ackwood here required to support this massive display. Once the track was laid and basic scenery complete, 22 kilometres of electrical wiring was installed to power the 33 kilometres of trackage. We begin our rail fan experience of the train place by following a Union Pacific ore train over the layout from the mine to Museum Junction, via Hamilton, Eastwell and Rundle siding to our destination of Prestonville Yard at the base of Fort Cameron Mountain. The leading locomotive, an Atlas model of a Union Pacific F7, heads the ore train past Prestonville. The trailing locomotive is a Rivarossi model of a Santa Fe C liner. Our train passes a local Wolfdean Pacific Freight as we negotiate woodstock cutting on the approach to Eastwell Tunnel. Emerging from Eastwell Tunnel, we see the local intermodal freight terminal just south of Douglas. North of Douglas, a long grade is encountered on approach to Rundell siding and the reefer icing facility. Museum Junction Yard can be seen in the background. A 38 class steam locomotive with a local passenger train passes us on our approach to Museum Junction. The engineer notches out Run 8, climbing the grade of Museum Junction. The two diesels rumble under the large truss bridge spanning Prestonville Yard, just as another 38 class express passenger trundles overhead. The signal box and railroad maintenance camp sit at the base of Fort Cameron Mountain and our train's destination. The mighty R2 heads a heavy freight train from Woodstock via Prestonville Yard onto Hamilton. This beautiful R2 articulated locomotive is a Samhongsa brass model with many added detail parts. The R2's articulated design is clearly in evidence as it exits the curve onto Prestonville Junction Bridge. We meet a Wolfdean Pacific freight on our approach to Museum Junction Yard. Two Daylight Express trains pass in close succession at Wolfdean and Rundle siding. Emerging from the tunnel, an empty Wolfdean Pacific ore train passes overhead as we round our final curve into Hamilton, just as another loaded Wolfdean Pacific ore train heads towards Woodstock. Wheels and motion. Just look at those powerful side rods on this magnificent KTM model. On board number 614, we head a freight from Museum Junction on its way to Hamilton. .614 is a Northern class locomotive of the chassis system. We climb up onto the coal tender for a bird's eye view on approach to Prestonville Yard. The engineer throttles up 614 as she moves out of Prestonville Yard. Let's take a closer look at 614. Welcome to the Wild Wild West. The Rio Grande narrow gauge mogul trundles over a high trestle bridge with a short freight. The mogul locomotive and rolling stock are a Bachmann Industries plastic model and extremely well detailed. The Rio Grande narrow gauge runs through mountainous scenery on its way from Prestonville, where it interchanges with the main line to its destination of Fort Cameron. Both the freight and passenger services pass the Queensland Air Museum, situated behind Hamilton Station. New meets old, as a horse-drawn tram and helicopter are seen at the Queensland Air Museum, as our narrow gauge freight train passes in the background. Another narrow gauge mogul is seen in action, hauling 2 passenger coaches. These are also Bachmann Industries models. Weaving in and out of the main support structure of the O-scale display are 2 G-gauge layouts. The first is loosely based on the American Wild West era. These large G-scale models are a treat to watch. The steam locomotives and rolling stock seen here are all LGB models. The many buildings and structures are handmade from kits or scratch built. This wonderful layout is full of many detailed scenes, and children of all ages love the chunky appearance of this fun scale, especially the models of Thomas the Tank Engine and his carriages Annie and Clarabelle. Hustle and bustle is alive and well on the HO scale urban display. Originally built as a portable showpiece, this display has now been permanently installed and automated. Even though it's only a 16-foot by 8-foot layout, the many detailed scenes give the viewer a sense of expanse in a sprawling urban environment. Let's take a closer look at some of the scenes. The suburban commuter train is a Fleischmann model, whilst the Budd railcar is a customised design to fit over an Athearn mechanism. The Amtrak Genesis locomotive and coaches are Athern models, with the New South Wales and Victorian trains both being from Lima. The magnificent theme park and structures are built from Fowler kits. Another automated display is the beautiful scenic snowscape of the N-gauge layout. This display includes over 10 tunnels and bridges. Both locomotives used on this layout are lifelike models, and all rolling stock is from Fleischmann. Different lighting conditions show off the sparkle of the snow-covered environment. Let's take a look at some of the other trains and branch lines featured on the O-scale display. The Wolf Dean Pacific is a freight and ore hauling railroad that interchanges with the Union Pacific system at Hamilton and Douglas. The church seen in the background is a model of the historic Lutheran church, sitting alongside Queensland Railway's Brisbane to Gold Coast main line at Bethania. There's high adventure. A car is stuck across the track and the express is due any moment. As rails gleam in the sunlight, a Southern Pacific cab forward leaves Prestonville Yard with a mixed freight. The cab forward is an original KTM model over 50 years old. An Amtrak passenger special receives a slow order on approach to the busy Prestonville Yard. Leaving Prestonville Yard, the engineer notches out to run 8, making up for lost time. The Amtrak FP45 locomotive and Superliner passenger cars are all of brass construction from Williams models. The 38 class locomotives are scratch-built from tin plate on Rivarossi mechanisms. Some of the passenger coaches behind the 38 class are built from kits, while the remainder are scratch-built. Many detailed scenes are used to create this fantastic railroad modelling display. Let's take a closer look at some of these individual scenes. To our knowledge, the train place is the largest O-scale layout in the world open to public display. A visit to the train place is an experience not to be missed by rail fans and modellers alike. We hope you've enjoyed The Train Place, Volume 1 of the Model Train series. If you have a model railway or you're part of a club and would like to have it featured in a future release of our Model Train series, Train Pictures would love to hear from you. Your layout doesn't have to be large, it simply needs to be a set that you think others will enjoy viewing. Please visit us online at www.trainpictures.com.au. Thank you for supporting Train Pictures.
got to get the axle box of this wagon over this marker there. When I've got a backpack, the little hook goes down and gets pushed back. Right, now that's it. Now when you pull those away, of course it just pulls away, see?